Hello viewers, 4DIYers here with another tutorial video for everyone. In this particular video here, I'll be showing you how to remove the fuel tank on a BMW E23 along with replacing the vent lines on the expansion tank in the trunk. This is a 1984 733 model, and a similar procedure may also apply to other BMW models of this generation. I did run the car low on fuel, so there is minimal fuel in the tank, and it still can be drained while in the car. This car is equipped with a drain plug on the bottom, and it's a socket head bolt. If you can also pull the fuel pump relay or fuse, then try to start the car to bleed off any excess fuel pressure in those fuel lines, so when they're disconnected, you won't have pressurized fuel. Some of my footage was corrupt, but I want to salvage as much as possible considering the tutorial videos for this car are limited. Some of the missing disassembly parts were replaced with assembly footage, so you're able to understand what's going on. First, you'll need to remove the shields around the fuel tank. There will be 3 in total. First is the one behind the differential. Then you'll have 2 separate covers on the rear just before the bumper. First is the one cover, and finally the other cover. Once the covers have been removed, you do have enough space to drop the tank down along with accessing the bolts for the straps. Before the tank is dropped, the fuel pump needs to be disconnected. Pull the carpet back in the trunk area. This will expose a round black cap. Remove 3 Phillips screws and the cap will lift straight out. Under here will be a fuel pump. This is where you disconnect the fuel pump, sending unit, and fuel lines. Disconnect the fuel pump and sending unit connectors. The fuel lines may have gear clamps. In this case, I had ear pinch clamps, which can sometimes be a challenge to remove. Good quality side cutters can be used to clip the clamps, or if you have a specialty crimping tool for these, they are equipped with a cutter as well. When those clips are removed, you can then remove the lines. If they're stuck in place, use pliers to twist the lines on the connection and then pull off. Next will be a rubber cover on the filler neck area. Remove the fuel cap and use a nylon trim tool to pull up the cover from the one side, then pull it off the filler neck. This needs to be removed, otherwise it will catch up on the vent lines. I have also placed a rag inside the filler neck so no dirt falls inside the tank. Leaving the cap on may catch up somewhere. Place the jack under the fuel tank. I would recommend using a block of wood or maybe a foam pad to put at the top of the jack pad so it doesn't damage the tank. Remove the socket head bolts on the tank straps. There will be 2 in total, 1 for each strap. The straps can stay in place for now. Slowly lower the jack and then let the tank drop down. Keep an eye around the tank area. Make sure it's not catching up anywhere, and you may need to shift it around to assist it out. Now just to give you a peek in the tank area, to the left of the trunk floor, you can see the plastic clips, and this is where the vent lines clip into place. Here's the perforated area which was leaking when the tank was full. Once that tank is out from under the car, here's another view from underneath the car for a reference. Using a wire brush and a vacuum, I gave the tank a cleanup and then flipped it over while there was still some fuel inside to expose that leak. Fuel is lighter than water, so you can easily seep through the smallest perforated areas. I did remove the drain at the bottom of the tank and then strain the fuel using a cloth into a fuel can. To remove the fuel pump, remove the bolts around the perimeter. These are small, so be careful not to break any of the fasteners. In order to get that fuel pump out, the sending unit does need to be removed in the center, and it's held in with 4 nuts. Exhaust fumes were ran through the tank in order to remove any fuel vapors which can cause a tank to explode if it's exposed to sparks. I also let the tank air out for a longer period of time just to be safe. If you are grinding or welding, a tank can also be filled with water or an inert gas such as what is found in welding. The rusted areas were cleaned up using sandblasting equipment and a surface grinder. The perforated areas had an aircraft tank sealant applied. Any bare metal was primed, and the tank was eventually painted using a farm implement paint, which is very durable. Any vibration pads or anti-squeak pads were replaced. The expansion tank needs to be removed in order to gain access to the rubber vent lines for replacement. There will be a carpet cover that pops out of its location. The tank is held in with two fasteners. One is easily viewable and the other is hidden behind the fender carpet cover. Removing the tank can be hard. You need to pull it out from the top while pushing the rubber vent lines through the grommets in the filler neck area. This will give the lines added length to maneuver the tank around and then lift it out of its location. And here's a view once the tank is out. As you can see, the rubber grommets have been pushed inside the car. Each of the lines have pinch clamps, which will need to be cut off using the crimping tool. I don't think it's overly critical, but I did mark the lines with a paint marker on the top and bottom sides to determine their locations. Next, using a crimper tool to cut each of the clamps at the ears. Considering we are working with fuel vapors, I wouldn't recommend using anything that creates sparks or excessive heat. Remove the fuel lines. You'll most likely need to twist the connections to break them loose and then pull off. Remove the lines from the vehicle and remove the rubber grommets, which will be installed on the replacement lines. I did have a hard time finding the exact size replacements, so I used braided fuel lines. Both are 6 feet in length, which should be plenty. The two sizes that are required, one is 4AN and the other is 6AN. With the lines removed, they can be sized up and cut to the appropriate length using a hose cutter. Installing the lines back into the car can be a bit tricky as these hoses are a tight fit. A rubber-safe silicone spray can be used as a lubrication. Install those rubber grommets in place first and then install the lines. I found it was easier to install the lines from the inside of the car first, then push them out through the filler neck area. Purchase the correct size ear clamps, install them onto the lines before they are put onto the fittings on the expansion tank. Rubber-safe silicone spray can also be used here to help assist the lines onto the connections. After the lines are in place, crimp each of the ear clamps and ensure they are tight. Using a paint marker, each of the lines were marked on the tips, so I know the locations going to the fuel tank. The expansion tank was pushed back into place. You'll need to push the lines through the holes, making sure the rubber grommets don't pop out, and then slowly feed the tank down to its location. Then install the bolts and tighten down. To make it easier, I installed the fuel pump first instead of when it's back in the car. This can also help keep dirt out of the tank. A new rubber gasket may be needed. Check the condition of yours for any damage or deterioration and replace as needed. Tighten the fuel pump down in a crisscross pattern, same as what is used on wheels, to ensure the gasket is evenly compressed. Then install the sending unit. This also has a gasket, and make sure it's in good condition and replace as needed. Push the tank under the car and then connect each of the fuel lines to the tank. Make sure those ear clamps are installed first before pushing on the lines. Clamp down each of the lines using a crimper. As an added step, before raising the tank into place, I applied an oil spray to the underside of the floor and the top of the fuel tank to protect the vehicle from rust. Around the fuel pump area, I taped this off so no oil spray comes in contact with the electrical connections. Lift the fuel tank into place using a jack. A piece of foam was also placed on the jack pad so it didn't damage the newly painted surface. The tank is light enough, you should be able to maneuver it into place easily. Here are the tank strap loops on the other side where they clip into place. If the straps are rusted badly, they will need to be replaced. Clip the straps into place on the front side of the tank just after the differential. Install the bolts for the straps. And then tighten the tank into place. You may need to adjust it slightly so the straps are in their depressed locations on the fuel tank. Here's a view before those shields get bolted in. On the opposite side, you can see where the straps are clipped in. Push in the rubber cover around the filler neck. A rubber-safe lubricant can also be used to make the installation easier. My cover is cracked and will be replaced eventually. Replacements are available. Install the one fuel tank shield. Then install the other on the rear of the tank. Next, install the last shield at the front of the tank behind the differential. Reconnect the fuel lines with the clamps. Tighten each of the clamps down. Reconnect the electrical connections. Fill the tank with fuel and start the car. Once the car is running, turn the engine off but leave the key on to check for any fuel leaks. Then reinstall the access hatch with the gasket and finally put the carpet back onto the floor. New videos released every week on my channel. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It's a huge help to me, and leave a comment below if you found this tutorial helpful. Don't forget to follow my social media pages such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to keep up to date with my latest projects. And if you're not a subscriber, be sure to also hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching.